Good morning, everybody. Please pardon me, I'm going to sit down. I'm a little under the weather. I know that's a little awkward to say right away, but let's get it out in the open. I don't feel 100%, but this is way too important for me not to do today. So I'm here, I'm with you. And what I hope to do in the next minutes is share my personal story with you. You all are the ministers that carry the lives of these kids. And I can't tell you in my life how important the relationships I had with the people involved in athletics were for me and school. And I hope you'll take what I say today as both a story of cautionary tale, one of personal redemption, and opportunity to learn from my openness what you may be able to do to help impact the lives of those you face every day. I also need to thank Jeff Collins and Donna Arias for being the spearhead of having me here with you. This is their doing that I'm here, and it's great to be here with you. So my name is Jeff Hatch. I was born September 28, 1979 in Annapolis, Maryland, to an Army intelligence father and an Army nurse mother. I have an older sister. She has 4 kids, currently pregnant with her 5th. She lives in Virginia, is married to a police officer. And my upbringing was a middle-class Brady Bunch life. And I can say that here and you guys know the reference. I did not come from a life that was extremely difficult, but from the early ages I was the big guy. Today I'm 6'7" and 315 pounds, and I've been big since I was born. And I mean that literally. My mom asked the doctor, is it a boy or a girl? He said, I don't know, he's still coming out. So that's her joke, but I share it in adult audiences because it's... Anyway, I started playing sports early and found success there, but I also found that being different physically from others made it hard for me to fit in, hard to be a part of. And I always felt different. I always felt like I didn't belong. And very early on for me, being the size of my teacher, not feeling like I had a lot of friends, I started getting picked on. I was an oaf, I was an ogre, I was an outsider. And that was hard for me because all I wanted was to fit in, and I just felt like I could not. And I know we can all relate to that feeling at some time. And I internalized that feeling. I didn't talk about it. I didn't share what was going on because in my home we didn't share the problems either. I told you it was Brady Bunch, it was, but my father's also an alcoholic. And when I grew up, we didn't share anything that was not positive because you did not bring energy that was not positive into our home. And that was important, and I knew that, and I carried that. As I moved through my journey, I got into middle school. Same thing, high school starts, and wow, everything changes for me. I'm 14 years old, I make varsity basketball my freshman year, and all of a sudden I'm a popular kid. Sports start to matter in high school, right? Athletes become leaders. And I felt that, and my life changed drastically. All of a sudden the guys that I looked up to that were seniors and juniors, they were guys that wanted to have me out with them and they wanted me to be a part of, and I took that opportunity and I loved every second of it. Very early on, my freshman year in high school, I went to a party with the guys. There was alcohol there. I started to drink that alcohol and I found a solution. Because when I started to drink that alcohol, what it did for me was remove that feeling of less than, like nothing else could. It removed that feeling of not belonging. It took away that voice in my head that said I wasn't good enough and made me feel like I was. And I liked that because I didn't have to talk about it. I didn't have to say anything. All I had to do was find that alcohol, get it into my system, and the problem would go away. I also made a decision very early on that I was not going to, like I told you, let my problems be known. So I did everything I could academically, athletically, community service-wise, to stand out, to be the best, because I wanted no one to look inside. I did not want you to ask questions about me. I wanted to be a guy that you looked at and said, Jeff's fine. Jeff's our guy. He's good. I got good grades, I performed, did community service, but inside I was screaming. By my junior year of high school, I had transferred to another school to play basketball there. That was my sport, basketball. But there was a really smart guy, his name's John Beckman, he was my football coach. And as I'm shooting around in the gym that day before my junior year starts, he comes in and sees me. I'm 6'5", about 215 right now, 16 years old. He says, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm Jeff Hatch, I just came here to play basketball." He said, "Have you ever played football?" I said, "I have not." He said, "Do you want to?" I said, "I don't know, my mom's not, no." I was always too big, you know, the age restrictions growing up. I was like 140 when I was like 8. It was like, they're not gonna put me out there with the 12-year-olds. So I said, "Look, if you talk to the basketball coach and you talk to my mom and they say it's okay, I'll give it a shot. You know, I wanted to try new things. I was at a new place, let's go for it." So sure enough, he has those talks and they say okay, and I step out on a football field for the first time, and boy, you know, we all have things in our lives that we have a natural ability for and a talent for, and for me it was knocking people over. And I mean that. I mean really, like what happened to me when I walked on a football field was like Adam Sandler in Waterboy. It was like I put the face of every kid who called me an oaf and an ogre on the guy I lined up across from, and I therapeutically took out every beating I ever took internally, externally. And it was awesome. There were only 22 guys on the team, so I didn't come off the field. By my senior year, they were like pulling me out of drills and practice because they were afraid I was going to hurt guys on the team. I mean, I was a menace, and it was awesome for me. But you see, still inside, my answer had come years earlier, you know, and I still held to that. I had this secret. I had this secret. I went to college. You know, when it came time to pick, I didn't know what sport I was going to play, where I was going to go, what I was going to do. I went to the University of Pennsylvania, which was a couple hours up the road, pretty close to home, and I met with this guy, Al Bagnoli, who was about 5'6". He coached at Penn for about 20 years, won a bunch of titles there. I went into his office, and I sat down, and he said, "Jeff, what are you doing messing with this basketball stuff?" I mean, I was like, "Coach, I don't know." You know, he said, you need to focus on the football, and you need to come to Penn and play for me and see what you can do with it, and you'll get a good education. And you know, the guy just talked to my heart, and he made sense. He wasn't just telling me what I wanted to hear, he was telling me the truth, and I really appreciated that. So I went to Penn. And it continued for me, because what happened when I went to college was all the volume turned up. Academically, the pressure turned up. Socially, the pressure turned up. Everything turned up, and I had found my answer much earlier and was unwilling to make a change in that regard. So when that happened, I increased my substance abuse intake. Now, again, as my story continues on past high school, I hope you'll recognize where the lessons were learned for me and where the changes could have come. I continued on that path, and I almost failed out my first semester of college because of my substance abuse issues and my failure to adapt to the environment, but I was able to hold it together, continue on the path, and as my journey continued through college, I participated in much of the same behaviors, and things didn't change much. You know, I sometimes wish my story was such that the failure came earlier for me, but it did not. I was able to hold it together for a long time. And that's a lesson, and there's a lesson in that. And that lesson is that the kid who you're looking at right now as the problem child may not be the one you need to look at. That all the kids, all of them need that time. They need that attention because it can come from any one of them. And it's an issue that seeps in and seeped into me genetically, my environment, my reactions to it. When you see something, say something. Because for me, as I continued on, I was able to dodge bullets. I didn't get arrested. I got chased the wrong way down the street by paddy wagons after getting physically violent with people. I mean, it was all the things that happens that could have been the ringer of truth for me, but it didn't come. And by my senior year, I was really good. You know, I was the first team All-American. I played in the Blue-Gray All-Star game, and I was going to go play in the NFL potentially. But that whole time, my senior year in college, I'm about to achieve this dream of playing professional sports that I've had since I was a kid. And at the same time, I'm selling a pound of marijuana out of the refrigerator in my college dorm room. I'm selling marijuana out of my refrigerator my senior year of college while I have the potential to play in the NFL. And I didn't see anything wrong with it. Because for me, I wanted to be able to do that for free. I wanted to be able to smoke the drugs for free. It's crazy to me now as a 37-year-old man to say that to you. It's embarrassing. But it's my reality. And in sharing that with you, my hope is to impact others, right? I find no glory in telling you that, but it's the truth. I ended up getting drafted by the Giants in the 3rd round. I move up to Clifton, New Jersey. I buy a townhouse. I sign my $1 million contract. I buy my Lincoln Navigator and put 24-inch rims on it. I get my diamonds. I'm going out with Miss Maryland. I've graduated from Penn. All these things. I had checked all the boxes, man. MTV was what we watched growing up, and I took my social cues from there, and I said, these are the things that will make me happy. And materially, by 22, I was doing those things. I checked those boxes. And I sat in my place one day and I went, oh my gosh, I'm totally miserable. They lied to me. Consumer culture lied to me. How can that happen? I had believed those things, and it turned out not to be real. And it was a moment for me that I held on to for a long time and looked back on later and went, wow, that was an impetus for a lot for me, because understanding that made me understand other things. And I got injured very early in my rookie season and got introduced to opiates. And I remember taking those drugs the first time, and I looked at that bottle and said, you take 1 to 2 tablets every 4 to 6 hours as needed for pain. And I felt that emotional pain. Because I was hurt, I was on injured reserve. I didn't feel a part of again. I was getting back to that old me. And I knew how many to take to cure the physical pain, and I knew if I took a few more, it would cure the emotional pain, and it did. And there's a saying in the treatment and addiction industry called drug of choice. You may have heard it, some of you, if you're around the industry at all, if you know anything about it. Drug of choice. It's like among addicts and alcoholics, there's a belief that you find the drug that does for you what you wanted it to the best way, and for me it was opiates. And from then on, I spent the next 4 years of my NFL career, the next 4 years of my life, in the worst states I was ever in with my addiction. And the ins and outs of that journey are not a requirement for me to share with you today, but the point of that is to tell you that if I had said something or someone had said something to me, maybe a change could have come. But that wasn't my journey. You know, my journey is to be here as this guy for you today. And I'm grateful for that every moment of every day, because what happened for me was I ended up getting moved. I went down to Tampa. I got released by the Giants when Tom Coughlin came in to coach. Jim Fossil got fired. Tom Coughlin came in. He was a disciplinarian. He had us marching out to practice. We hit every day, and I did not want to play for that guy. I was an egotistical, special guy, I thought. So I get moved from the Giants. I go down to Tampa and play for John Gruden down there, and everything's going to be different when I get to Tampa, right? It's a different environment. He's a good coach. He's cool. He's going to be great. And I get down there, and within no time, I'm back to doing the things I had done before. And you see, my rookie year when I got that first surgery, they had told me, your back is not going to hold up. They had told me when I had that first surgery that I had other issues going on, spondylolisthesis, spondylolysis, all these words I didn't understand, but what it meant was my low back was messed up and had been for a long time, and there were issues that were going to be troubling for me later. But at the time, it was let's do the least we can do and get him back on the field as quickly as possible and hope for the best. So we did. And what happened my 4th year in Tampa is we were out at the field one day, we were practicing, and I was doing a blocking drill, and the next thing I knew, my back went. And I knew it was over. And that moment touches me differently emotionally every time I share it. But what I'll tell you is that I'll never forget walking off the field the last time looking through my helmet and shoulder pads. You know, because that was my armor. And it was the only thing that I knew in this world that I could do the best, and it was my safe place. And all of a sudden, my safe place was gone. I got a spinal fusion shortly thereafter, 11-hour surgery, went back to Maryland to heal, and got down to Tampa as quickly as possible because I had a plan. My plan was that I was going to end my life at 26 years old because everything that I had that I thought was of value was gone, and all I was now a drug addict. I overdosed, was put in Tampa General Hospital February 5th of 2006. That night, actually, it was early in the morning when I got to the hospital, that night that the Super Bowl was on TV. I remember laying in that hospital bed watching that Super Bowl and thinking that 4 years earlier, maybe it would have been me on that field playing in that game. And now 4 years later, here I was, my NFL career is over, and I just got to the hospital after having a drug overdose. I'm watching that game on a TV from a hospital bed. And it was enough reality for me to go, maybe something needs to change. And these people came to me. There was a doctor I had to see for the NFL. I was already in the substance abuse program at this point. I had been caught smoking marijuana years back. But you see, what I found was all they were doing was testing me for that marijuana. So I could do every other thing I wanted to do as long as I didn't smoke marijuana. And she came and saw me in the hospital room. She said, look, you've had grand mal seizures trying to detox from these drugs before. You know, you've had some issues. You need to go somewhere to get well. You need to go to a resort. Go for 2 weeks to this resort. And I said, okay, that sounds good. I can handle that. I'll go to a resort for a couple weeks. So I get on a plane and I fly to Monroe, Louisiana. Anybody seen Duck Dynasty? It's where they filmed that show. And those guys are like high class live in Monroe. And I get off the plane, and there's a guy at the airport, and he walks up to me and says, great googly moogly, look at the size of this guy. And I went, oh my God, where am I? And I had this idea about what I was getting into going to drug and alcohol treatment that came from like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I mean, I thought it was going to be people in gowns walking around, drooling on themselves, and I was going to I didn't know what I was walking into. What happened for me was I went there and I found people just like me. And what I found when I got there was that I had a problem, but there was an answer to it. And it was the biggest relief of my life. Because for so long, I had tried to find the answer to my problem everywhere but where I needed to. Inside. I stayed at that treatment center for 104 days. And things changed for me. My sobriety date is February 8th of 2006. I don't keep a day track anymore. It's been 11 and a half, almost 12 years now. And what happened for me there was that I found a new way to live. I found new passions. I found a new way to live my life, and I found an answer that I desperately needed in the work that I did on myself. And my path was through the 12 steps. That's not the importance of me being here today. It's what worked for me. It was not through like anything else, but I went to work at that treatment center thereafter. What happened, I got hired, my first job out of treatment, I gotta tell you this story, is I go to treatment, I have to go to a recovery house afterwards, and I gotta move into this house in a town called Rayville, Louisiana, smaller than Monroe, with about 12 other guys, and get a job, and you know, that's all part of the path, right? So I get a job as a customer service associate at the movie gallery in Rayville, Louisiana. It's like a Blockbuster video store. My direct career path was NFL offensive tackle for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to customer service associate at movie gallery in Rayville, Louisiana. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me, you know? I got humbled. I got humbled. And I found who I really was again. I found a love for human beings. I found a love for people. I found a love for life. I found the thing that was missing in me that I had tried so hard to find the answer for that was right in front of my face the whole time. And shortly thereafter, I got hired at that treatment center and found a new path to dedicate my life to. That was to help other athletes going through the issues I was going through. And other people in general. You know, I've had the opportunity over the years to work at multiple treatment centers and to help a lot of athletes get well and to help a lot of people get well and find their path to peace and recovery. And I've seen miracles every day, and I've seen the struggles too. And oftentimes we focus on those struggles and not the path to peace that we see. So my hope for you today is that from me, you learn that there are opportunities along the way where we can make a difference for people. And if you see something, say something. Because maybe for me, if that had happened earlier, I wouldn't have struggled as long as I did internally, you know? I mean, I'm a lucky guy to be here with y'all today. You are stewards. The relationships that have mattered most to me in my life came through the relationships I made in school and football. And sports, period. I hope you all remember that. And again, today my life is beautiful. I work for Granite recovery centers. Again, my life is based on service, a passion for helping others, and it's a beautiful life. And I get to share my story open and honestly with people and let them take from it what they will, but use it to make a difference for others. And that's what life's about, making a difference. Thank you guys so much.